All right, check, check, radio check. Without any further ado, we're going to talk about something that has been popping up a little bit more frequently and maybe some things that we can do to broaden our awareness and also steps you can take to really reduce your likelihood of becoming a victim. So with these days, everyone knows someone that has been affected by a cyber scam. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So Caitlin in my office, she put and volunteered some of her experiences. And the first three are, firsthand things that she has seen firsthand, dealt with firsthand, and experienced firsthand. So Caitlin bought something on a fake website. So, as well versed as my office is about looking, researching data, in today's world of information technology, it looks suspicious. Things look really, really good. But quite often, if something like sort of raises a question mark on my radar, I'll send it to my wife or to Caitlin or to my office and say, hey, what do you guys think? Because it's very easy and it's really much a problem if you click on the wrong link and things with hijacking and things of that nature and locking and freezing accounts and things like that. So we'll talk about that. So, Caitlin, who is taking all the training, as have I, as have Keith, as has Alan, all of us are on the lookout for questionable activity. It's part of our industry. We need to take training regularly. But even as well-trained as you may be, and maybe in your industry, you're being required to do the same thing, it's still easy to get fooled. Now, Kate's dad was scammed into allowing access. So somebody contacted him and, he was having an issue. He was contacted, thought they were a Microsoft rep. And obviously that's never a good situation because you think about all the data that's on your computers now. And once somebody that's skilled has access to, it can be a problem, right? MIL is mother-in-law. So Caitlin's mother-in-law clicked a link in a phishing email. So what is phishing? Phishing is a way that it will look like it's from a legitimate source. Maybe it's from Apple, maybe it's from Target, maybe it's from Home Depot. But and you'll see, but the ending of the email, you go, that doesn't look right. So we have to be careful. A lot of that is on AOL. Right, all of a sudden you'll think it's coming from supported AOL, and then all of a sudden you're looking at the extension and you're like, that doesn't look very promising. Now, if you've been on the call in the last few weeks, you know that recently I'm going to talk a little bit throughout this this call about a client of mine who is a doctor, and this is what I call DDD, dumb doctor deals. Doctors are very busy. They're very bright. They're well educated and they make a lot of money. And as they're looking to invest in places, to look for opportunities, sometimes they put money where maybe it was questionable. Crypto is an area that I've just been extremely guarded against, right? I don't need to remind everybody about SBF, Sam Bankman-Friedman, right? But he scammed not only billions of dollars with cryptos in some type of an index that even regulatory authorities were probably turning a blind eye because of the amount of money that was involved and because he bought silence and he was able, money makes people funny. And he was able to pull the wool over a lot of people's eyes. And I hope that man goes to prison for the rest of his life. Right. But that being said, people of all education levels, of all financial wealth levels, of all, statutes face the risk of being taken advantage of if you're not guarded. When I asked this woman what happened, she said, I said, why, because I had been speaking to her. I met her last year. She had found me online and we started to get to know each other. I was taking her through our process. And as we were getting to know each other, ultimately, I got to know some of her finances, but some of it was behind. They were at custodians, and I'm okay with it. At the Vanguards of the world, the Fidelities of the world, the name brand custodians. And, some of the areas where she was holding money, I was not ready to make any suggestions yet. But we started to work together, and I guess in her defense, she had done some type of options trading in the past. So she was somewhat familiar with things that are maybe not mainstream, right? It's almost day trading. So day trading was a little vogue in early 2000s, and then we had internet bubble bursts, and then ultimately the housing crash. So, people have stepped into that arena, stepped out, technical trading, options trading, futures trading, any of that stuff are typically done on regulated platforms, right? So as much as I understood why she did it, I had to ask the question, why didn't you call me? Right. And she was like, well, a friend of mine had been doing it, so I followed their advice. So a lot of red flags, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But I just, this is why we're talking about this subject now, is because this happened to somebody and it was for a lot of money. So, but here's the rising cost of cybercrime. So when you look at it, since 2015, let's say that it was roughly affected our economies to the tune of about 3 trillion. And then 2021, COVID, right? 6 trillion. People are at home, right? They're a little bit more likely to be on their computers or be at home or be able to be reached virtually. And then by 2025, it's expected to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $10.5 trillion. So it's more costly per year than all natural disasters. And when you look at the world economies, USA, China, cybercrime is so big that it could technically be considered an economy. And then it's actually more profitable than the global drug trade. This is why the criminals continue to gravitate into this arena, because there's money here, right? What is a cyber scam, right? So we know email compromises, scams, and then data incidences. And, we'll talk a little bit about some of these, but the email one is the one where I think a lot of people on our computers, if you don't have some type of encryption system, virus scan, some type of mechanism to really detect unauthorized activity, you could be at risk. So, you think about the personal messages, whether they be in the form of text or whether, maybe it comes in the regular email contact. We're making travel plans, right? We're putting data out there. They're asking for information. Online merchants, employees' pay stubs, work documents, account information, photos and videos, right? A lot of these things have timestamps, date, locations, markings on a lot of, digitized photos. Personal information, calendar events, locations, social media updates. Like I do a little bit of Facebook, but I'm nowhere near like what I see most people. A lot of people spend a lot of time. It's vogue. People want to share, right? Hey, I've been here. I did this. You'll see that I typically will not post pictures until I've been back from someplace, because I just think it's just common sense or good practice to be able to say, hey, I don't want anybody to know I'm not home. If I'm traveling, if I'm not traveling, you'll typically not see me, post anything until after I get back. Real estate purchases, stored passwords, right? There's a lot of safety software that you can buy that will encrypt and put really, really sophisticated passwords in place to make sure that you're not breached. Tax forms, where are you storing these? Call records, writing style, family members, signed documents, copies of ID. So what's in your email? Think about it. Did any of these things say, yep, you know what? That's probably vulnerable. And it's like I said on the first slide, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So detecting suspicious emails, usually phrasing or poor grammar, those are the ones where I don't know if you've gotten anything. They used to come in the mail or you get the email, I still have an old AOL account, and then all of a sudden it would be like, oh, we have Mr. This is from Dr. Johnson, and I'm from Nigeria, and you've won $1 million. You just need to contact us, right? So those were all 20 years ago. Well, they've evolved, right? And we'll get into that. The requests are often urgent, right? So we've all, I would think, heard the story where all of a sudden somebody says, hey, grandma, who's this, Jason? And they go, yeah, it's Jason. Listen, I'm really in trouble. I'm in Italy right now traveling, and I've been locked up by the police. You need to send money, right? And again, this is just off the top of my head, a quick example, but it's those types of things. The elderly are often targeted, or they'll create an event where it's maybe even somebody a friend, a neighbor, somebody that says, hey, listen, I need you to send or wire me money immediately. Right now, I'm in trouble, but you can't get them on the phone, right? They may use sympathy or an emotional situation, right? Like they said, I'm in the hospital, or I've been arrested. Some type of an event that creates that sense of urgency, but they're unable or unwilling to speak on the phone. And that's where I'm going to go to with my client story. Again, it just really angers me, saddens me, and I did everything I possibly could until, the FBI, after I had spoken to her, she pretty much told me that this person was SOL. And I was like, oh, so multiple requests for large sums of money. This is where once they got their hooks into you, they will typically, will seem more legitimate up front, but they're typically trying to manipulate to continue to get this large amount of money, or to follow up with large sums of money. Don't be fooled by like titled requests or forged voided checks. So this is a screenshot. Again, because of privacy, I won't mention their name, whatever, but a couple things stood out to me when they shared it with me. First of all, when I started trying to do a deep dive, this is before I even knew it was a scam, right? I started to ask questions, and they said, I said, where's this place located? They didn't know. I said, what do you mean you didn't know? I said, how did the funds get there? Remember, I had started to work with them. So when I went back and looked in their file, I said, your accounts had it at 2 different custodians. I said, wouldn't they have a record when you did your transfer of where you moved that money from point A to point B? She goes, well, what I did was, because it was qualified money, I sent it to my bank in an IRA and then wired it to them. Okay. So that's the first part. And again, she had some familiarity with futures trading. She was now going to try and trade cryptocurrencies, and in a short period of time made a lot of money on paper. A friend had recommended this to her, and as you can see, dear user, according to the relevant authorities, like who speaks like that? Relevant authorities. If you need to unfreeze your account, this is what happened. They froze her account when she requested to cash out. You need to pay a security deposit to confirm that you have nothing to do with money laundering. The payment is completely and the authentication is successful. We will refund your deposit to your account, and your funds can be withdrawn. Thank you. First of all, that's just poor English. The only way you can communicate with these people is via chat, and this was being typed via chat. So then, as after I had spoken to her and they went back, they came back with this response. And again, I'm not showing you everything. According to the relevant unit laws, what does that even mean? And regulations and withdrawal service regulations, please contact customer service when you pay the tax and complete the tax payment within 5 working days from the date of withdrawal applications, and thank you. This is when it started to sound to me suspicious, because both in her mind and in my immediate question, she's like, I wasn't aware that the taxes would be due immediately. I thought that they would be due next year. And that is correct. So I sent everything that she sent me to the FBI, contacted some of my contacts, spoke to a local rep. And again, the person just shared, unfortunately, what started to happen is, as I said, listen, you have to be a little, this is before I said I was suspicious, but I wasn't certain. And I was coaching her to say, hey, don't be aggressive yet. Just sort of ask, hey, can I go to your compliance department? Can I speak to your legal department? And she was then threatened. You do not have a right to ask for that. Please send our money now or you'll be reported to the IRS. Now it was just warning flares. And when I shared that with the FBI, they said, yeah, that is 100%. They're probably in some country like Nigeria. And it put your seatbelt on. This woman lost in excess of $700,000. of her retirement accounts. And she, where part of that money, that's not how much she put in. She had already sent them $300,000 of additional money to pay the tax before I just out of the blue, I get a phone call from her and asking me, hey, can I speak to you? And her original conversation with me is she needed to borrow money. And that's when I started asking. First of all, in my industry, it's illegal for me to share or lend money to a client. But secondly, as I started to do a deeper dive, I found out how much trouble and what a mistake she had made. I share that with you, which is why we're having this conversation, right? So we're aware. Now, because I'm an investment advisor, because we're in such a highly regulated industry, but as you saw, it's such big business, you will see that a lot of things, investment fraud formula typically works like this. The disbursements requests via an email. We, in my office about 3 years ago, one of our clients, we got an email. Their account had been hacked, right? And then they got an email, they got they found out that they were corresponding with me and requested a withdrawal be sent to them. And I picked up the phone and called her. And she goes, absolutely not. That's not me. Please send me the email and do not send any funds. I said, that's why we have these protocols in place. It's required for us, to make sure that who is requesting the funds to be transferred is actually the person that's requesting. So, it doesn't mean that things can't happen. I see I got something here in chat. When my wife or I get suspicious, often alarming email, I always check the full sender's address. It's often reveals the scam, an address that does not match the supposed sending organization. 100%, Harold, and thank you. And that's the type of thing you can find out. But what had happened in this case, I guess they had actually taken the client's email. This came from the client, but they had now ghosted it so that the response and given direction, now they had account access to this, one of my clients' emails, so they could direct that to funds to their own personal account. And again, we were, because of mechanisms, protocols that we have in place, we were able to divert that. Verbal authorizations, email instructions on accounts will not be executed, right? So if somebody says, hey, listen, I need money, we're picking up the phone and saying, hey, listen, is that you? So you may send requests via email, but professional planning services will require verbal authorization from you as well. Consider creating a verbal password. But one of the things I was thinking about the other day, we have security systems at house, but if an alarm goes off and there is an intruder here that's asking us to turn off the alarm, and maybe the alarm trips and we have a passcode when they call in, right? That there's actually, you can either put in a fake code, right, that will turn around and alert the authorities to allow them to show up unbeknownst to anybody with bad intentions. So what are some common cyber scams? So you have over here, you have harvesting. Fraudsters collect the information about the target, right? And again, like I mentioned, all the ways out there that they're doing this, and then they contact online through email. That's why I do like technology today, because at least now when they call, usually on my iPhone, I'll see phishing or spam, right? Romance, that's one of the ones where when I called the FBI, one of the things that she's very, very well versed in, and she wanted to do a deeper dive of all parties involved. And when I sent her the information is, a lot of times people tend to meet people online and they have a persona that is not accurate. Right? That is, everybody puts on their best Sunday suit to make a good impression, but legitimately they have ulterior motives or nefarious intentions. So, the romance one is one to be guarded against. Investments, right? If something sounds too good to be true, the old adage, it probably is. It doesn't hurt to double check. And that's why one of the telltale giveaways is when there's a sense of urgency. Got to do this right away. Running out. We're next Tuesday. The deal's over. I've seen that, I've been in business now 30 years. And whenever I see that type of sort of promotion, I get guarded. Lottery prize, that's the one that I think used to be the ones where you get the letters and the emails telling you that you've won $500,000, $1 million, 10 million, $30 million. All you have to do is just contact this number, and somebody from Nigeria, an attorney representing the person that's holding the funds, will contact you. And all you need to do is send them some money, and then they'll release the funds to you. So, it's those things, they sound comical when you think about them, but people have fallen victim to these. Now, the trick here is they use a positive hook. They try and charm you. So that's on that side. Or the negative hook. This is where this woman was faced with. They started to threaten her with regulatory oversight, contacting them to put them in jail, scare tactics, right? Tech support, person in need, right? Any of these things are things that are trying to help them to prevent you from thinking logically, making a knee-jerk decision versus following your gut instinct. And then disbursement, direct you to send funds urgently, whether that be in the form of Western Union, wires, PO box, someplace that's hard to track, trace, and once it's gone, very difficult to recover. And then to add the victim to the sucker list for future targeting, right? So once these guys get you, they will find other ways to circle back. A scam is a dishonest scheme designed to trick you into willingly sending funds to a malicious third party. You are liable for the loss, right? And that's the one where a lot of time ransomware, right? They come in, they infect your computer, they infect your server, they infect all your files, they lock them, and then you got to pay a fee to turn around and undo that. So again, for lack of a better word, they're pretty ingenious, right? The criminal mind, if they put that much effort into doing things legitimately, this world would be a much better place. But all I can do is just say, hey, keep your guard up, right? Be aware. If you got questions, pick up the phone and call me. Get a second opinion, get a third opinion, right? How does this look, smell, feel, right? If something seems a little off about this, and that's one of the things that typically, whether it be in an email, it's the grammar that to me is usually one of the telltale signs that they usually don't have quite a good mastery of the English language, right? Common scams, again, the romance one, right? That person flash in the pan, you met the person of your dreams for whatever reason, they've said all the right things, and it's a match made in heaven. And then fast forward a week, 2 weeks, 3 months, a year, 2 years. I have a buddy of mine that he's like a brother of mine, very successful, had a good heart, but he dated a woman and she was like $30,000 in debt and paid off all her debt. And then she disappeared, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent. That was his decision. That wasn't a scam, but you can do background checks on people. You could spend a little bit of money and say, hey, is this person actually legit and on the up and up? So if you're thinking about getting into a relationship, you want to go slowly, but before you open up your financial kimonos to each other, have a good idea who it is you're looking at. If somebody is got a credit score of 400, right, been in jail for 2 years, you might want to rethink that one. Just my opinion, my 2 cents. Investments, remote job, opportunity, lottery, tech support, real estate, IRS, government, emergency, person in need. What steps can you take to protect yourself? Educating yourself on common scams so you know what to look out for. Don't share your personal info online. So again, as much as we are proud of our travels, our accomplishments, our pets, grandkids, things like that, sometimes too much information, or keeping that circle of your group so that it's not necessarily open to the public, right? If you're going to have it open to the public, like my younger girls, I almost never put pictures of them up there. First of all, they forbid me. Secondly, because I don't, there's a lot of bad people in the world, and I don't need nobody scoping out my family, right? So that's just my defense mechanism. You use VPNs, antivirus software, and avoid public networks. Don't click on links from strangers in emails and texts. And sometimes it's even by accident. Like it looked legit, and all of a sudden by the last minute, oh my God, I clicked on it, right? So just be careful if you do that. Even if after immediately doing, you actually did click on it, right? You may want to turn off your phone or watch from things from there in the future, right? That's how spam and phishing typically works. Don't act urgently. Breathe, slow down, think about it. Do I know this person? Why are they contacting me? What do they want? Right? Because honestly, if it's a solicitation, we probably don't want to entertain it anyway. And then ensure that you know who to contact if you think somebody is trying to scam you. For me, like I said, contact me. I'll point you in touch with the FBI, the local authorities, right? But remember, if you wait until that money's gone, unless it's a much larger scheme, as much money as 700,000 is, the FBI said, not unless this is tied to something much, much bigger, you're probably not going to hear back from us. I mean, such a disheartening comment for me to go back to this woman and say, I had to sit down with my girls and explain to them, you could buy 2 houses for that. It's a lot of money. So don't fall prey to some of that stuff. Make sure your passwords are complex, not dictionary words with letters and numbers, especially your email passwords. Now they just got software. You can go in and they just start trying it. And if they get a little bit of information on you, now they just start running combinations. And it's just, I mean, it's instant. It's almost like back in the day when it was robo-dialing. Well, now it's just robo-phishing for passwords. So just be aware. So what to do if you become a victim? Run a full scan on your computer, change your passwords, contact your bank, request new credit cards. I know it's a pain in the ass, but you know what? Sometimes it's just prudent. I'd rather it be a pain in the ass and change this stuff to make it impossible for the thieves versus, finding out I woulda, coulda, shoulda later. Lock your credit, right? You can do things like credit checks or put things in place that unauthorized charges. My bank has fraud alerts. If I'm traveling, next thing I know, I put something in the airport or at a place outside of my area. Next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call from the bank saying, is that you? Contact your advisor, somebody like myself, whoever you're working with, make sure that they know that the only time that any type of execution of money out of your accounts is with your verbal authority. Report to the FBI if a large amount of money is involved. And what you think might be large, typically in their eyes, it's much bigger. So last thing before we go ahead and wrap up, I got 2 events coming up. We are doing some live events. We're going to be doing a Medicare education venue. That's going to be at Mercer County Community College. And that's going to be on April 25th or April 27th. No cost to attend, 6:30 to 7:30 is about an hour. And the link is on our website. So you can go to professionalplanningservices.com. If you want to register, we will be sending out, as we get a little bit closer, an email to everybody in our database, and a snail mail is going out to the local populace as well. Also coming up, and this is one I'm really excited about, long-term care. That is coming up in May, June, and how it works. And it is really, really important because of all the financial risks that I think most people face. It's this one here that can absolutely cause the most well thought out retirement plan to become undone. Again, if you have any questions, whatever, please reach out. But these are some things we have on our venue. We're happy to help. Stay safe out there. And here's my disclosure that we've now added some technology in.